Welcome, everybody. We are Marvelous Musings, and today we are going to be talking about who our favorite Spider-Man is.
Nah, that's not what we're doing. We're just comparing them unbiased opinions today.
Unbiased, but also
It's
like,
gonna be very hard to be unbiased on such
yeah.
matters.
Bro, dude, if we're doing bias, I'm giving Tom a 0. He was supposed to put Tobey Maguire in his background, but he didn't.
Yeah, very disgraceful, extremely
Very
disgraceful.
disgraceful.
It is what it is. Anyways, let's get started. So, we're going to be discussing what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man and who we think does the best job of all of his different characteristics.
We have to try to be unbiased as best as we can.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, of course. So, um, basically, let's just get started with who we think does the best job at playing Peter. Peter Parker, the other part of Spider-Man. All right, yeah, how do you go for it?
Yeah. So the key thing to me, what makes Spider-Man, one of the big things is he should be either a high school or a college student. So that unfortunately leaves out one key Spider-Man. But I would leave out Tom Holland from not Tom Holland. Sorry, I
Talking
would
about
leave
Tobey.
out Tobey Maguire for other reasons as well. Because Tobey's Spider-Man, he plays that awkward character very well, but he makes it too awkward and too nerdy for the audience to like truly be able to love and understand.
Yeah,
So
let's talk about that for a second because that's one of my issues with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Like, I think Tobey Maguire is a great actor. I love him in The Great Gatsby. I think he does a great job, but I think the character's acting, or at least his acting as Spider-Man, always felt to me like it was too awkward, especially in the first movie. Like, by the time he got to the third, it got a little bit better. But Bully Maguire was one of the most awkward things I've ever seen in my life. I get that at points it was supposed to be that way, but it didn't feel right sometimes.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
if you want your rent, fix your damn door.
You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!
Later, chump.
See you, chump.
Yeah, but I
Later,
do want
Jump.
to expand, Agraj, what you said about Bully Maguire. I feel like a big part of why the audience wasn't able to connect to Toby as well as I feel they did with Andrew and Tom, as well as they did with Andrew and Tom, was because Sony kind of really made him into this character that he wasn't. They, especially by Spider-Man 3, they made him something that wasn't consistent with what the last two movies were showing him as. So it felt really strange and really disconnected. And that's why I think I'm gonna leave Tobey Maguire off the list of what we would see as the better Spider-Man. The better Peter Parkers.
Right. So he moves too much into the nerdier side, and
Yeah.
and it leaves out he could have done a bit. Well, this is me talking about Spider-Man. He could have been a bit more funnier and goofier with Spider-Man's his
quipping.
Spider-Man character. I would say. I think so.
But that's more into Spider-Man, so we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Andrew. How about that?
Okay, so let me do this.
Okay.
Andrew, I think a lot of people criticize Andrew for being his Peter Parker being too cool, right? You guys have obviously heard of that. Everyone calling Andrew too cool. Well, to that, I would say I would disagree to an extent. I mean, I would say he is a bit cool to play Spider-Man, right? But in the first movie, every single time he's talking to girls, he's like stuttering all the time.
I don't know. We could. Or we could do something else. Or we could, I wish I could just. I can't. It's hard to say. Oh. 1 sec.
And that's not really something you would associate with being cool.
Can I just
and
say,
confident, right?
You're
maybe
such a big Andrew Garfield fan. I was so ready for you to just be like, in The Amazing Spider-Man #1 at 1 hour and 50 minutes, we see Peter Parker do this to and yeah, not MJ Gwen. I was so ready for you to like name an exact timestamp from the movie for evidence.
Yo.
And now I'm really disappointed that he's not going to. But Naranjan, please carry on.
Okay, fine. Yeah, but like I was saying, him stuttering a lot and being like that is not very confident or cool, is it? And he does bully back Flash a bit with the whole basketball scene. I'm sure you guys remember that scene.
Yeah,
he does. But there's been a lot of points in the comics where Peter's been defending himself and taking a bit of revenge as well in the comics. So you can't really say that, and I think a lot of people also say he's too cool to play Spider-Man because he looks cool. I think that's the main reason why a lot of people say he's too cool. I mean, you can't really blame him for looking cool. Blame him for looking cool, can you?
Well,
Right.
I do want to actually add to that. I have two notes to say about this. First, regarding Andrew Garfield is because we all know people like him in real life. And the
Right.
fact is, people who act like him, even if they're not Spider-Man, even if they're not physically strong, they're good people to be around, and they're generally not unpopular. So I didn't see how they were able to fit this in, and that's why I felt like maybe again it's the scriptwriters, maybe it's the directors, or maybe it's just Andrew Garfield being so amazingly attractive as a human being. Ignore my simp. Maybe it's just that, but it felt kind of disjointed. The second thing I want to say is we were talking about Bully Maguire. Bully Maguire means a lot to my family because my grandmother was not able to walk for around 20 years. When the Bully Maguire scene came on TV, she stood up just to turn it off. So I'm so grateful to Bully Maguire for that.
That didn't happen. That didn't happen. Did that actually happen?
What?
No,
No
it
way.
did not.
Okay, I was like, no way.
No. I refuse
But-
to believe this.
But okay, you know what? To add a little bit of my own feelings about Andrew's Spider-Man or his Peter Parker. I agree. I think he is a little bit too cool, and I do think he does a good job, especially when it comes to being around Gwen. I think that's when he really shows his awkward side, his nervous side, and I think he does a really good job. And actually, I have no criticisms for the banter and the sort of the conversations and the interactions that Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker have in the Amazing Spider-Man series. I think they have a lot of great chemistry.
Their chemistry is like the biggest highlight of those movies, right?
Yeah, so I think in those moments he does really well. I mean, of course, their chemistry was great. They dated in real life, but
I mean, yeah, once they started dating, yeah, he was a bit cool because he is talking to his girlfriend and stuff, right? He
yeah,
can be
and
cool if you.
I'll be like.
If
I do
he's,
think that one scene with Flash is very important. Like there are moments where he defends himself, but he completely obliterated Flash in that moment. Like absolutely destroyed him. And not to mention he cheated in that basketball one-on-one. He traveled. He was holding the ball and he
Come on!
Yeah, that's pretty clearly travel. Although we have to wonder whether it counts when you spend all of that traveling time in midair.
No, okay. He definitely took more than 2 steps while walking. I saw that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And then he left.
Yeah, so much as we would love to discuss basketball, unfortunately none of us are good enough to be in the NBA basketball.
Speak for yourself.
Right, let's move on. What did you guys think about Peter Parker as Tom Holland? Because I felt Tom Holland really fit the bill for what Peter Parker was supposed to be. It was that perfect balance between awkward kid, high school student, but also not so awkward that you're just cringing the whole time.
Yeah. I'll give the MCU this. I think they do a great job with the writing. And it just feels so much more realistic.
That's been proven through many years of movies. They do very well with writing, and also disproven with some movies. Captain Marvel, Incredible Hulk.
But even when it comes to his bully, the Flash Thompson that we see in his Spider-Man might not be the Flash Thompson we're used to. But he's so much more realistic than any Flash Thompson I've ever seen before. Like to see someone like that who has his own insecurities be a bully is very common. And I think he, like Tony, what's his name, Rev Laurie or something like that. He does a great job as the Flash he is trying to play.
Tony
Rev Laurie or something like that.
Ravioli.
Yeah, I do really like what Marvel has done with basically all of the major Spider-Man characters. Actually, even the villain. I know the villain isn't actually a key topic of this movie, but the Vulture, like his motivations, the reason why he was being a bad guy, and he didn't start off as a bad guy, and we all know this. I think Marvel is really good, and I keep saying this, and I'm going to say this again. They're really good at creating comprehensive characters because they have so much time to build those characters and put them under so many different situations. Yeah. One thing I want to say about why I think, like, if we come to the conclusion that Peter Parker's Spider-Man is the best, I think there's actually a few key reasons why
Peter Parker's Spider-Man.
Peter Parker's
Tom Holland's.
No, I personally think Miles Morales' Spider-Man's better.
Guys, see, he's so good that I keep confusing Tom Holland with Peter Parker. Consider that.
Oh my God.
Is hence proven. All right,
Jeez,
let's talk a
Addy.
bit about the Spider-Man then. The other aspect of what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man, how well they play Spider-Man.
Well, we're gonna go chronological order. So Tobey Maguire
Tobey
first.
Yep,
I feel like he did better as Peter Parker than Spider-Man.
for sure.
To put it short, yeah.
I think Toby's Spider-Man is just not interesting enough. And I understand that
guess.
Raimi was trying to go for that sort of Silver Age Spider-Man from the comics.
Yeah.
With the slightly goofy villains and the sillier catchphrases and stuff like that. I understand what he was going for. I just don't think it, at least for me, it landed that well.
I mean, he did pretty good. I would say as Spider-Man, regardless.
Before anyone says that the reason we're against Tobey Maguire is because we're young and we grew up with the new movies, that's not true.
I also very much
Exactly.
enjoyed the Sam Raimi movies. So
Yeah,
shut up.
Those are the first Spider-Man movies.
Please do
I ever
not
watched.
behave in such a way towards our beloved audience members. Please do not shut up. Please continue talking about the incredible movies. But that said, yeah, do shut up. We need to remember that Sam Raimi's movies were made in a time when something like The Dark Knight, the kind of like dark and serious movies, as comic book movies, that was inconceivable. That kind of movie was inconceivable. It's a comic book movie. It's supposed to attract kids and people who read comics. Now, all of those people who read comics, now they're grown up. Now they don't appreciate that, oh, this guy's perfectly good, this guy's perfectly evil. Now they want that nuance. And I think it's that perfect progression of how Spider-Man has grown. Starts off as the opening movies, like they've got a lot at stake, but also not that much. Especially if you compare it to Spider-Man literally saving the universe by fighting Thanos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
So I think that's our conclusion, that Tobey's Spider-Man just doesn't land for us as well as the others.
I guess so. Moving on to Andrew Garfield, I guess.
Start that.
His Spider-Man, he truly became Spider-Man obviously after Uncle Ben died, right? And he clearly, unlike Tobey Maguire's, he clearly saw Uncle Ben getting killed, right? He saw who killed him and stuff like that. And it literally just fueled him with revenge, right? And he just started off as a vigilante, trying to solely find the person who killed Uncle Ben, because all he thinks about is revenge instead of actually doing the right thing, even if it means doing bad things to actually find the thief who killed his Uncle Ben, right? And that's basically where he starts off. But it's not until the bridge fight with the lizard that when he actually saves that little boy and returns him to his father, when he realizes he should be fighting for good, and it was the first time he titled himself as Spider-Man, right? Yeah. And that's basically where his character evolved. He went from revenge to actually doing the right thing and making sure people don't suffer like he suffered with losing his parents and losing Uncle Ben and stuff like that. And that's basically where his Spider-Man is standing. It's a different take on the character, but it's arguably more realistic than Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and it's a fresh new take, I would say.
It's definitely more realistic in terms of Spider-Man. And one thing I really like about his Spider-Man is how they made like all the cops against him. Like they labeled him a vigilante. They were all hunting him down, stuff like that. I thought that was a really good point, because in real life that would probably happen.
Right. Yeah.
Again, I felt like I really like what you say about him being vigilante, because you should remember, at the end of the day, superheroes, wow, they're amazing, but at the end of the day, they're vigilantes.
They are vigilantes,
law
right?
into their own hand. I want to just point out a small scene that happened in Spider-Man: Homecoming. It was actually the Stan Lee cameo from that movie, where it looks like he's stopping a guy from stealing a car. He's actually just breaking a dude's face because he couldn't open his own door. So we need to remember that superheroes do make mistakes, and I really like the way that these incredible Spider-Man movies, the Amazing Spider-Man movies, what am I saying? Okay. But I really enjoyed the touch that it brought to Spider-Man, especially seeing how he would function in a real life society. Yeah. Because real life does have police and all those things.
And in terms of doing things like quipping, Andrew does such a good job compared to Tobey. It's incredible. Like I was watching the Amazing Spider-Man series recently, which is cool because it sounds like thwip, which is the sound his web shooter makes.
Oh my God. Okay.
but
yeah,
he does such a good
And-
job with that compared to Toby, and it just fills me with so much joy to hear him making fun of his enemies.
considering that one of Toby's most well-known statements is, "Do you want forgiveness? Get religion." Like,
You want forgiveness? Get religion.
if you compare
Yeah.
that to Andrew, like, yeah, it's hilarious, and I love just like randomly sending it to people out of context, and they're just like, "Dude, what did I ever do to you?" But honestly, it's not that fun to watch, and it's not that good of a movie that it's making.
Not as interesting, and I think it's just simple to put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, because Toby at that moment, he had the symbiote on him, right? I think that those scenes were intentionally made aggressive to just show how the symbiote functions.
See you, chump.
Like I have very
Right.
few criticisms about Andrew's Spider-Man. Like maybe there was some dodgy writing points and some weird plot advancements, but I think in general his actual Spider-Man is definitely up there.
All right, so what's our last criteria?
Well, no, Tom
right.
Thomas Holland.
Please start
best.
this. I love Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Naranjan is fake news, and I don't think Agraj actually exists. I think I'm talking to a computer simulation.
That's fair. Yeah, go.
Yeah, Tom Holland. I feel he really hit all of the aspects of Spider-Man. One thing I found really interesting was how, it's really weird how the other Spider-Men were just shooting webs out of their arms, and it was just like a switch they could turn on and off. I loved how they showed Tom actually making the web shoot.
Andrew did that too. Andrew also made web.
Andrew did that too, Addy.
I see. This is what I was talking about earlier with regards to my brain.
I love Tom. I love Tom Holland. I think his Spider-Man's great. I think his Peter Parker's great, but I have one issue with his Spider-Man, and it comes from his the beginning. I don't like that Tony Stark made him his first super suit. Like he had that one before, and
Yeah, that was my
crappy.
complaint as well.
But I get some people say it's more realistic that he makes a suit like that because he is after all like a 15-year-old boy. But I think that Spider-Man in the comics has always been able to make himself a really good suit by himself, which he does end up doing, which I love how they saved that in Far From Home up there. I love this suit, the Far From Home suit. And I'm glad they did that. They totally fixed that. But I wish, right from the beginning, he wasn't just Tony's son.
Okay, yeah, and that's
hand,
another thing why.
What better way to introduce Spider-Man than as the surrogate son of a man who was never able to have a child?
I think that it was a good way to do it. I think they could have balanced it a bit better to make it so that he's both his surrogate son, but sometimes it just felt like that's all he was.
Yeah, it really did. That's why.
And I think Far From Home fixed that a little.
He was dead at that point, bro. The reason it got fixed was because Tony was dead at that moment.
That's how he solved all the world's problems.
Then he became Mysterio's or Nick Fury's son, and then in No Way Home he's gonna become Doctor Strange's son.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's
or Toby.
I want to say about this actually.
Or Toby's.
Wait, can you be your own son?
Yeah. I mean, if you go back to the past and.
Okay. Addy, yeah, what are you saying?
Okay, Addy, what do you have to say?
Yeah, one of the biggest things I found about Peter Parker as Tom Holland was that it wasn't just an independent Spider-Man universe. It's the MCU. And I get that a lot of people have objections to him being not able to make a suit on his own, but realistically, what kind of 15-year-old kid can get access to the highest quality latex and paints and actually make themselves decent Spider-Man suit?
A guy who goes to a really good science high
I want to
school.
go on to the second point here, and that's that Spider-Man in the MCU, he didn't just serve as Spider-Man. He also served as Tony's conscience, especially in Infinity War and the Endgame saga. That was so significant because I think Spider-Man's biggest role in the MCU might actually have been there, as the role he served in inspiring Tony to do it.
All right, so Addy, I do agree to you to an extent. I do agree. What can a 15-year-old kid do with, in terms of building himself a superhero suit? But what I disagree with is in terms of actually building the suit. That was one of the key moments in the previous movies that showed Peter's intelligence a lot, right? High intelligence. A lot
the whole
in
reason.
The comics as well. Yeah.
It's the whole reason why he has web shooters too.
Exactly.
It's to show that he has the intellect and the capability to make himself his own sort of weapon and whatnot, which they didn't do with Tobey Maguire, which I didn't always love.
Yeah. It
But,
didn't make sense to me as well how the webs came out of his wrist, because real spiders, they produce webs out of their
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
it didn't make sense how it would specifically go out of his wrist. So organic webbing never really made sense to me. I mean, if it
I
comes
just
out
have a
of
picture of Spider-Man swinging from his butt now.
Okay.
But I think it's a safe conclusion to say that I think it's at least on our list, Andrew and Tom have the best sort of Spider-Man qualities. Toby is great. He's great for having started it.
iconic, very iconic character.
Extremely
Toby's
iconic.
version of
I
Spider-Man.
just don't think nowadays it lives up to the same hype as the others do, or at least not
That's
the same
fair.
hype, but the same quality.
At the end of the day, I do love all two
Yeah,
of them.
of course.
All two of them.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, they're obviously these differences in Spider-Man are clearly made to tell better stories, better different stories. Have different approaches to the characters and stuff like that. And it's mainly all made for entertainment. So I don't think we should judge too much of them. And,
So I mean, like,
and Andrew Spider-Man is very overhated.
I agree with that, but I think
all of them are overhated to an extent.
No,
I mean, all
bro.
of them
have-
No, dude. Andrew, no,
Yeah, Andrew's definitely hated
Toby's
the
and
most.
Tom's get love every single day.
That's true. Yeah.
Andrew gets
That's
nothing,
fair.
bro.
Andrew gets a lot of hate for it, but
And I'm hoping he gets a good redemption in No Way Home, because it is proven he's coming. There's been a lot of leaked set
I
photos,
think
and there's been an HD 8K video of him that was leaked in set. And to the side of him, there was Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man's hand. You can tell by the raised web design with that.
Yes,
his
that's
Right,
what
all
I'm
right.
looking forward to.
It's December 17th.
December 17th. Let's go.
oh, so excited. And I guess just to wrap this up, now we know who the best Spider-Man is. It's Miles Morales. All right, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yes. If you're excited to see Toby and Andrew, hit the like button and subscribe.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Thank you for
Bye.
watching. We'll see you next
Bye.
time. Peace out.